Hi everyone, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. In this video, we're going to learn the 2 to 6 player game, Viticulture by Stonemaier Games. Now sure, people enjoy wine, but they should be enjoying wine from your cellars. But you're going to need to carefully crush and properly harvest the grapes from the rich vines of your many fields, and assign your workers to the right tasks and invest your earnings wisely if you wish to serve the finest wines in Old World Tuscany. So join me at the table and let's learn how to play. First, you lay out the game board. Now this game board actually has 2 sides. This side has several visual aids to guide you during the gameplay, but for more experienced players, you may choose to play on this side as there's less text to obscure the artwork. For gameplay purposes, they're both identical, so choose whichever side you want, but certainly when you're first learning the game as we are, this side is more helpful. Players will now select a color and collect the matching pieces and player board. Now like the game board, this has sides with more or less text, depending on your preference. At the start of the game, you only have access to your crush pads, small cellar, and 3 fields. The other pictured elements are only available once you've purchased them, and we'll see how that works a little bit later. From the green vine deck, you need to find a Pinot vine card for each player. We're going to set up for a 3-player game here, so I'll pull out 3. Now shuffle separately the remaining vine, summer visitor, wine order, and winter visitor decks. These have their own matching spaces that they're placed in, as well as room on each side for a discard pile. Nearby, put the lira and glass tokens. You'll notice I have these in glass jars. They're not supplied with the game. I'm just using them to help keep things tidy. The lira comes in denominations of 1 and 2 and 5. We'll assign the starting player marker in a moment, and here you place the gray temporary worker. Each player is then dealt a summer visitor card and collects 3 lira. These are your workers. You'll start with 2 of them, along with your larger Grande Worker. Players now put their corks on the start space of the victory point tracker, and then their wine bottles go on the central space of the residual payment tracker. Now you take the rooster from each of the players and then shake them up in hand, letting one come out randomly, and then that player is the starting player. All of the roosters are then placed here at the top of the wake-up chart. And that's the setup. Viticulture is played over a series of rounds that represent years, which are broken into seasons. And during those seasons, you'll be assigning your workers to accomplish a variety of tasks, like growing grapes, harvesting them, crushing them, turning them into wine, and then selling them for the victory points that you need to win. So let's begin by looking at what happens in the first season, spring. Starting with the player holding the first player token, which happens to be blue in this case, and then going clockwise around the table. Players take turns assigning their rooster to an empty wake-up level. The lower the number, the sooner your workers get to their jobs, allowing you the earliest choices of the available actions. That said, the later positions provide you with instant benefits. For example, placing in the 2 slot allows you to draw a vine card. Slot 3 provides a wine order card. Going here allows you to collect a lira instead, whereas slot 5 lets you draw either a summer or winter visitor card. Slot 6 gives you a victory point, or if you go to position 7, you then get to collect the temporary gray worker to use during that year. In this case, let's say the blue player decided to go here and collect the bonus lira. The orange player decided to take slot 2 and collect a vine card, and the white player was feeling a little tired and slept in and gained a victory point. Hey, well-rested workers are happier. This chart now establishes the turn order for the rest of the year. So in each of the seasons, the orange player will be going first, then the blue player, and finally the white player. It no longer matters who has the start player token. That simply determined who got to place their roosters first. Now it's time for summer. Again, in turn order, which starts with the lowest numbered player on the wake-up chart, players will take turns putting one of their workers on a yellow action space. You then resolve the associated effect. These yellow actions you'll find on this side of the board. Now you can also pass, even if you haven't used all your workers. But once you pass, you may not play workers again until the winter. Now you might be wondering, why would you pass before using up all of your workers? Well, the reason is because once you place a worker, you cannot use that worker again during this round. And you may have noticed, looking at the board, the yellow summer spaces only take up half of the options. In the winter, you'll have new blue actions to choose from. So if you've placed all your workers on the summer spaces, you won't have any left to place during the winter. Each action shows a number of spaces for individual workers. In a 2-player game, you can only go in the first lightly colored space. In a 3 to 4-player game, you can also place in the middle darker space, and in a 5 to 6-player game, you have access to all the spaces. When you have the choice of more than one space, they can be claimed in any order. You'll notice that the middle space, which is available in 3 to 6-player games, has a bonus. So often players will pick those first. The bonus or action can be taken in any order. However, to claim the bonus, you must complete the action. Now, while only one worker can be placed in a single space, over the course of several turns, the same player may claim multiple spaces within a given action. In a 3-player game like we've set up here, the ability to give a tour is now blocked to other players, unless they use their Grande Worker. This larger worker can be placed on empty spaces or used to take the action of a location that's already full. You just place it nearby. However, when being used this way at a full location, it can never claim the bonus. Finally, to place a worker, you must be able to complete the associated action. For example, these spaces allow us to sell 1 or more grape tokens. If you have no grapes to sell, then you can't take this action. So let's take a look at the various summer actions. Going here allows you to give a tour and then gain 2 lira. Going to the bonus space, which you should probably always do if you're able, will give you an additional lira. Placing a worker here lets you draw and add a vine card to your hand, and if you go in the bonus space, you get a second one. Going here allows you to plant vines that you have in your hand. Taking the bonus space allows you to plant a second vine. Some will additionally require you to have certain buildings in play. At the beginning of the game, none of the players have any buildings, so you would not be able to plant this Pinot. However, the Malvasia has no requirements, so we could plant this one. And because the bonus is always optional, we would still be able to take this action because we have at least one vine that we can plant. To plant, you place a vine in one of your empty fields. Or let's say later we had built the trellis and we're able to plant our Pinot Noir, we can put it in an empty field or with other grapes in a field we've already started. The only condition is that the total value of all the circled numbers shown here can never be more than 6. Although you're generally trying to make wine with your grapes, you may need some quick cash, and going here will let you sell 1 or more of your grape tokens. Going to the bonus space will also give you an additional victory point. We'll learn more about how you gain grape tokens, but you'll find them on your crush pad. And so when you're selling them, you can sell any number and you gain the value that's listed based on the values of your grapes. So for example, this value 2 red grape and this value 3 white grape could both be sold for 1 lira each, whereas this value 5 white grape could be sold for 2 lira. Sold grapes are discarded, and then you collect the appropriate money. On these spaces, you must play one of your summer visitor cards, resolving its effect, and then placing it in the discard pile. Going here allows you to play a second summer visitor. Now these effects never require you to play an additional worker, but if you cannot fully resolve the effect of a card, for example, this one says to plant up to 2 vines. Well, if I don't have at least 1 vine to plant, I can't play this card. As an aside, if at any time you run out of cards in a deck, shuffle its discard pile to form a new draw pile. But if there's also no discard pile, then that deck will remain unavailable until there are some. This is the cart space, and it's not colored in as yellow or blue, and that's because players can go here both in the summer and the winter. And any number of players can go in this space, and each time they do, they collect 1 lira. Finally, placing a worker here lets you pay the cost to construct a building. Going in the bonus space will discount that cost by 1 lira. So let's take a moment and learn about the various structures that you can build. Spread across your estate on the player board, you will find buildings that are illustrated along with their cost and matching symbol for their token. For example, I can build the trellis by spending 2 lira. Now each structure can only be built once, so you place the matching piece there to show that it's been constructed. As we saw earlier, the trellis will allow you to plant certain kinds of vines. Likewise, if I wanted to plant this Merlot, then I'm going to need some irrigation, which costs 3. If you have the windmill, then you can gain 1 victory point after planting a vine. Now, the important thing is you only get this benefit once per year. So even if I planted 3 vines during a single year, I would still only collect, at most, 1 victory point. To help me remember that I've resolved my windmill effect, after using it, I'll often tip it over. And then at the start of a new year, I'll stand it back up again. If you built the cottage, then in the fall, you'll be able to draw either an additional summer or winter visitor card. The yoke provides you with a new space to place a single worker. And you can do this either in the spring or the winter. And then you have the option of either uprooting a vine from your field, returning it to your hand, or you may choose to harvest one of your fields. We'll discuss harvesting a little bit later. The tasting room gives you a single victory point per year if you use the action to give a tour. So like the windmill, even if you give multiple tours during a single year, at most, you can only collect 1 victory point. Finally, each player starts with a small cellar. But to store the higher valued wines, like blushes and sparkling wines, you're going to need a medium or larger cellar. Now you must already have the medium cellar before you can build the large one. And that's all the structures. Now, once all the players have either passed or run out of workers to place, it's time for fall. In fall, again, in wake-up order, players will choose to either take one of the summer or winter visitor cards. And remember, if you built the cottage, you get to draw an additional winter or summer card. So you can do this in any combination. You can take 2 summer, 2 winter, or 1 of each. The winter step is played just like the summer one. Again, following the wake-up turn order, players will take turns placing a single worker from those they didn't use in the summer phase. The cart here, which provides 1 lira, may also be used during the winter, but otherwise, only the blue spaces on the winter side of the board may be used. But don't forget, if you built the yoke and you haven't used this space yet, you can also go here during the winter as well. Going here allows you to play a winter visitor, and going here allows you to play a second one. This space allows you to draw a wine order, or you can go here and gain 2. Going here and paying 4 lira lets you train a new worker. If you go to the bonus space, it discounts that cost by 1. You won't be able to use new workers until the new year, so for now, take one of the workers in your supply and place it next to the worker who did the training. At the end of the year, you'll be able to collect both of them and put them in your available worker space for use during the next year. Going here lets you harvest one of your fields, or up to 2 of them if you take the bonus space. To harvest a field, first you need to pick one. So let's say we wanted to harvest this field. I then total the value of all my red grapes. Those are the red circled numbers, in this case, just 1, and I'll place a grape token on that matching red value in my crush pad. I then total up the value of all my white grapes, which are the other colored circles. In this case, 2 plus 1 equals 3, and I place this on the 3 value of the white crush pad. Now, you don't remove any vines in your field, but you may only harvest each field once per year. And the crush pad can only hold 1 token per space. So let's say we'd taken the bonus harvest action and now wanted to harvest this field as well. We have a total value of 3 for red, so I'd place another grape token here. But then I have a total of 3 white grapes, and I can't put a token on the 3 white space. So instead I have to go to the next lowest value. If you would need to place a token on a space that's full, and all of the lesser valued spaces are full as well, then you would lose that grape token. This action allows you to convert grape tokens in your crush pad into 1 or 2 wine tokens, or a total of 3 tokens if you go on the bonus space. There are 4 types of wine that you can make, and you can make any combination of types during an action, assuming you have the appropriate grapes. You can make a red wine by moving one red grape token to the matching valued space in your cellar. White wine is made the same way, moving a white grape token to a white wine space. Now you'll notice, if you only have the small cellar, then at most you can create a 3-value wine of either type. So let's say on a future turn I wanted to convert this value 4 grape into wine. Well, I would have to move it to the 3 space, but again, if the space is full, then you go down to the next available space. And if all of the red wine spaces had been full in my cellar, then you would lose the token. So there'd be no real reason to convert a wine token that's in your crush pad if there's not a space to put it in your cellar. Blush wines can be stored in either your medium or large cellar on this 3rd row. So let's assume we had built a medium cellar. Now you can combine any red and white grape token value. Let's say this 5 and this 1. You now move one of those tokens to that combined value in the blush row and remove the other one back to the supply. Sparkling wines are stored on this final row. And as you can see, these can only go in a large cellar. Now you combine any 2 red tokens and 1 white grape token. So we could combine this 7, this 6, and this 5, which would make for an 18-valued sparkling wine. Now there's not an 18 space, so we'll move it to the highest one, which is 9, and then remove the 2 extra tokens that were used. It's also important to note that once in a cellar, wine tokens cannot be combined further. Here's the last available action. Going here allows us to fill 1 wine order. And if we go to the bonus space, we also collect 1 victory point. To fill a wine order, you pick one from your hand and then remove wine tokens of a value at least equal to what's shown in this top left-hand corner. So in this case, we'd need one 4-valued red wine and a value 4 blush. So removing a token from here and here would allow me to fill this order. Now, if you use a wine token greater than what is needed, you effectively lose any extra value in that token. After filling an order, you gain the number of victory points shown here. So white would move up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. You then move your wine bottle marker up on the residual payments track as many times as is shown here. You start in the center, so the first time you move, you go to the 1 space. The highest you can ever go is to the 5. Completed wine orders are then discarded. As with summer, winter ends once all of the players have placed all their workers or passed, and then it's time for year end. First, all the players age all of their grape and wine tokens by 1. Now, it's possible you may not be able to age one of your tokens. For example, in order to increase the value of this wine token from a 6 to a 7, I need to have a large cellar, and I haven't built that yet. So the wine will stay there on the value 6 space. Players now take back all of their workers, putting them in their available worker spaces. And if anyone had collected the gray temporary worker by going in the 7th position of the wake-up track, that is now returned. Now players with wine bottles on the outside of the residual payments track will collect lira equal to the value of their position. So the white player would receive 1, and the blue and orange player would receive 2 lira each. All players must also discard down to 7 cards in hand, and they can remove any ones they want to reach the required amount. Then the first player token is passed counterclockwise. And then, if any of the players have 20 or more victory points, the game ends, and the player with the most points is the winner. It is possible, as you can see, to have more than 20 points, but never higher than 25. In the case of a tie, the tied player with the most lira wins. If there's still a tie, then compare the total value of wine in the tied player's cellars. And if there's still a tie, compare the value of grapes in the crush pad of the tied players. Of course, if nobody has 20 or more points, then a new round, starting with spring, is played. And that's how you play the game. Now, there are a couple of extra little rules and tips to go over. Let's take a look at those now. For example, in the summer, it's a good habit that when you pass, you move your rooster to the right side of the wake-up chart. This way, at a glance, everyone can see who's still playing. And likewise, when you pass in the winter, just slide your rooster back over. You may have noticed it's also possible to get negative victory points, and this is the result of certain card effects that either require you to lose victory points or give you the option to. For example, this symbol here means that you can spend victory points, and for each one you spend, gain 3 lira, up to a maximum of 9 lira. Now you can never have less than -5 victory points. So if I was already here, then I could only use this card's effect one time to gain 3 lira. And if I had started on the -5 position, I would not be able to play this card at all. Aside from the information on the cards in your hand, and of course the face-down cards in the deck, everything else is public information for all of the players. You can't hide the values of your grapes, what vines you've planted in your fields, and so on. There's also a friendly variant, and this makes the usually optional bonus actions mostly mandatory. Let's go to the table and I'll show you what I mean. Let's say for a moment it's a 3-player game again, and these 2 spaces are the only ones we can use. Normally when placing a worker, you can go here or here. However, in the friendly variant, you're only allowed to go to the space with the bonus if you're also going to fulfill the bonus. Normally, remember, completing the bonus is optional. You only have to complete the action. Maybe I only have 1 vine to plant, but I see you have 2. I would go here to potentially block you from being able to plant both of your vines on your turn, even though I have no ability to plant 2 myself. In the friendly variant, I would not be able to do this. I would have to go to this space, unless this space is the only one available to me. So if another player had gone here and I wanted to plant one of my vines, I could go here now even though I can't plant a second one because that's the only space that was available for me. The friendly variant then is intended so that winemaking in Old World Tuscany is just a little less cutthroat. And that's everything you need to know to play Viticulture. Of course, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. And although we won't be doing a full playthrough of the game, at the time of this recording, there will be an expansion releasing soon. And we're going to teach you how to play that as well. So consider subscribing to the channel and coming back to check that out. But until the next episode, thanks for watching.